Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Maybe some of you are curious, what's make a ship float on water, even though it is made from metal that has weighing tens of tons? Well, in this video I will explain the secret behind ships that make them float on water. An object can float on water because it has a lower density than water. For example, this wood. This is a block of wood measuring 10 by 4 by 2 centimeters. With these dimensions, we can find out the weight of the wood. The method is we calculate the volume of it woods. It is 80 cubic centimeters, then we multiply it by the density of the wood, which is around 0.3 to 0.9 grams each cubic centimeter. Let's just take the middle 0.5 grams per cubic cm. So, if we calculate it, the weight of this wood is around 40 grams. Meanwhile, water has a density of 1 gram per cubic centimeter. With the same volume, the weight of water is 80 grams. That means that with the same volume, wood is lighter than water. So, when it is in the water, this wood can float. That's the reason why rafts that made of wood can float, because the weight of the raft is lighter than the weight of water with the same volume. Then what about iron? Iron has a density of 7.8 grams per cubic centimeter. With the same dimensions, the weight of iron is 624 grams. This is much heavier than water, which is only 80 grams. This means that if we put iron in water, the iron will move to the bottom, or it will sink. Then why doesn't the ship sink? It's made of iron. Actually, we can make iron float by increasing its volume without increasing its weight. How? It can be done by including air in the iron. Air has a very low density. If this iron is made into a kind of air cavity, it will reduce the load on the iron significantly. This is the secret of why the ship doesn't sink on water. The ship has an air cavity located in the hull. This air cavity does not have to be airtight, because what is needed in this cavity is only ordinary air with a pressure of 1 atmosphere. So even though the top is open, it doesn't matter. The air can still fill this cavity. It's just that this cavity must be tight on the sides. Therefore, to prevent water seepage from entering the cavity. If water enters this air cavity, it will reduce the volume of air in the cavity. The smaller the air in the cavity, the weight of the ship will increase, which makes the ship possible to sink. Conversely, the larger the volume of air makes the weight each volume of the ship become lighter. That will produce a lifting force that keeps the ship floating on the surface of the water. Another thing that makes the ship float is because of the sloping shape of the ship side. When put into the water, the hydrostatic pressure of the water will be directed to lift the ship. However, the shape of the ship that is pointed at the bottom will sacrifice its stability. This is because the ship will be more stable when the cavity that enters the waterline is larger. While this pointed shape makes the volume of space that enters below the waterline small. That will make the ship easier to sway. However, the advantage is that ships like this are agile and their resistance to motion is also small. So, the ship can move quickly. Well, there are various ship designs that are determined by the function of the ship. However, all of these designs have the same principle. Namely, the ship must have a hull or cavity that enters the waterline to produce lift. So, it has been answered why a ship made of iron can float. The reason is because the total weight of the ship is lighter than the weight of water with the same volume. To achieve this, the ship has an air cavity commonly called the hull. Inside this hull, it is attempted to be empty to maximize the volume of air that can be accommodated. That is also what makes the ship's cargo placed on the ship, not inside the ship. Water that enters the ship's hull will significantly increase the ship's load. Therefore, several ship designs are made with partitions. so that when there is a part of the ship that leaks, the partition can be closed so that water does not fill the entire room. And finally, the bottom of the ship that enters the water is generally painted red. It is not actually paint, but a special coating made of copper oxide. The purpose is as protection or armor for the bottom of the ship to protect it from being easily corroded. We know that the sea has a lot of organisms, and it is possible that there are some organisms that can react with iron, which makes the iron more easily corroded. Therefore, the bottom of the ship is given this protective layer. That is the animation that explains why ships can float and not sink. Hopefully, it can increase our knowledge.